it is a spectacular Friday afternoon. Welcome to the Bay Area and welcome to the Stanford Regional. The Pac-12 champion, the number 8 national seed, Stanford Cardinal, taking on the Mountain West Conference and Tournament champion, San Jose State Spartans, as both teams local, separated by about 20 miles. So Brad Sanfilippo, the Mountain West Conference Coach of the Year, brings his Spartans into Sunken Diamond to battle the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Alberto Rios, and the Stanford Cardinal. Game 1 on a Sunsplash Friday, Capital One. A look at the bracket for the Stanford Regional here at Sunken Diamond this weekend, as Stanford and San Jose State in Game 1 coming up tonight. Texas A&M, Cal State, Fullerton, the 4 teams in this bracket. And of course, the winner will move on to the Super Regionals, this double elimination format. Along with Arizona Hall of Famer and national champion Wes Clements, Roxy Bernstein with you. And Wes, we got a lot of firepower in this Stanford Regional.
This is a lot of fun. I mean, when you talk about San Jose State, last year they reached the final in the Mountain West Conference Tournament. They lost. They came back this year, and guess what? They're here for the first time in a long time, and this matchup with Stanford, a lot of these kids know each other. I mean, this is fun.
They played against each other in fall ball, and San Jose State in the tournament for the first time in 21 years. Brad Sanfilippo in his 6th season has done an amazing job with San Jose State. Jack Collette seems to be a catalyst for the Spartan offense.
Well, when something good happens for this San Jose club, Jack Collette seems to be right in the middle of it. He's a senior. He came back for this sole reason, Roxy, with the chance to possibly play in a regional, and he's got his wish.
So San Jose State for the first time since 2002 in the postseason. On the other side, the Stanford Cardinal, the number 8 national seed, the Pac-12 champs. They won it by a wide margin. I know they've lost their last 2 coming in, but this is a Stanford team that's used to being in this situation. 6th consecutive tournament they've hosted a regional, the only team in the country that can say that.
Well, there's no question about it. They won the Pac by 5 games, but without this youngster, Alberto Rios, he was a junior. Last year he was a catcher. David Esker said, where am I going to play him? Let's put him in left. 7 at-bats last year. Well, all he did is get Pac-12 Player of the Year. He's been sensational, Roxy.
Hitting .434 in league play. So Alberto Rios and the Cardinal, each of the last 2 NCAA tournaments, they've hit the most home runs. They use the long ball. They're going to need it in this regional to survive. A tough regional here in California. The NCAA Baseball Regionals are presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? Perfect weather in the Bay Area for this one. San Jose State and Stanford starting this Stanford Regional at Sunken Diamond. A look at the lineup for the Spartans, the 4th seed in this regional. And San Jose State hit the 2nd most home runs in the Mountain West, led by the 6-hitter third baseman Dalton Bolin.
Well, this offense hit 3rd in the Mountain West. They hit .284 as a club. They're 4th in runs scored, but one key stat, 2nd in doubles. And then, of course, the big bopper, 60 home runs, 2nd in the Mountain West. So when they score runs, it's via the long ball or extra base hit.
Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year, Quinn Matthews, coming off his worst outing of the year. Could not get out of the 2nd inning last Friday night in the semi to the Pac-12 tournament against Arizona. Matthews, Pac-12 leader in strikeouts and one of the top pitchers in the country. There are his numbers, and his ERA with that rough outing last Friday night, it jumped from 3.20 all the way up to 3.87.
Well, he faced an Arizona Wildcats club, and arguably you can tell him one of the hottest in the country and the best in the Pac-12. That Arizona Wildcats had the ability to lay off. What Quinn does a lot is when he gets ahead of hitters, he'll throw a lot of balls out of the strike zone, and a lot of his success happens when he gets ahead and he gets hitters to swing at his changeup down and away and his slider and his curveball. So something to keep an eye on today is Quinn getting ahead, because when he gets ahead, then he can induce hitters to swing at balls out of the strike zone.
Robert Hamchuk will lead it off for San Jose State. And a little bit of a slight delay here as Matthews, the 6'5 senior from Aliso Viejo in Southern California. It's already been a busy day for Quinn Matthews, which we will get into. But Matthews, as customary, looks off on the third base side before he begins. The lefties are different. He's recentering and focusing, bends backward, now he's ready to roll. And the first pitch of the Stanford Regional is a fastball. That's ball one.
Well, you did say lefties are different, right? And Quinn's one of the few lefties that I've seen that wears their hat straight. I mean, that's right off the bat.
1-0 pitch to Hamchuk. The junior from San Jose looks at a strike. 302, 6 homers. Hamchuk was the MVP at the Mountain West tournament in Fresno last weekend, which San Jose State got the automatic bid to the big dance. That one pushed out of play by Hamchuk. 1-2 the count. Is riding a 6-game hitting streak with 5 multi-hit games in the last 6 games. He's 13 for his last 26. Hit a couple of homers, drove in 7 of the Mountain West tournament. On the ground, off the glove of the diving third baseman Tommy Troy. Owen Cobb has no play, and an infield hit to start it for San Jose State.
Well, this ball, as you mentioned, goes right off of Tommy Troy's glove, and a great start for San Jose State. Now, when you face somebody like Quinn Matthews, and you could argue is one of the best left-handers in the country, if you get an opportunity early in the game, you really need to take advantage of it.
Theo Hardy, San Jose State shortstop, climbs in. Hamchuk, the runner at first base, does not have a stolen base despite being the leadoff batter as Hardy takes a strike from Matthews, the junior from Berkeley, across the bay. 10-game hitting streak for Theo Hardy. Led San Jose State in hitting this year, 337. Leadoff infield hit. Hamchuk, the runner at first, and the 1-strike pitch is popped back out of play. And even with his expansive foul ground at Sunken Diamond, pushes out of play, and it's 0-2 on the shortstop for San Jose State.
Well, 56 games, the Spartans have only stolen 28. So they're not a team that likes to run a lot.
0-2 the count. Stanford playing the infield to double play depth. Matthews sails that fastball high and away. Is slight breeze pushing out toward right as we start game 1 of the Stanford Regional. Temperatures in the low 70s, a perfect day for baseball on the farm. Quinn Matthews, the 1-2. On the ground to short, could be 2. Owen Cobb flips the turn. Drew Bowser, 2. Double play. Tailor-made for Quinn Matthews.
Well, what is it? The pitcher's best friend is what? Double play, and that's exactly what we see here. You get Cobb over to Bowser, over to Graham, and just like that, 2 outs, nobody on.
Nicely turned by the Cardinal. 2 outs for Charles McAdoo, the second baseman for San Jose State. 322, 8 homers for McAdoo, takes it just low. As McAdoo, homer, drove in 6 of the Mountain West tournament. Junior second baseman's from the East Bay. As McAdoo hails from Antioch, went to the powerhouse in Northern California, De La Salle High School. And McAdoo, whose cousin Bob McAdoo, a couple of titles, legendary NBA player.
There's that good changeup from Matthews right there.
And his other cousin, James Michael McAdoo, who won a couple of NBA titles playing for the Warriors and played his college ball in North Carolina. 2-1 on Charles McAdoo. That one is lifted back into play. So the McAdoo family, as Charles the second baseman for San Jose, but here's a look at some bloodlines and some NBA championships in the McAdoo family. Of course, Bob McAdoo, the Hall of Famer.
I wasn't around for them, but you probably saw Bob play, right?
Really?
Yeah.
You're going there?
Well, you probably did. That's all I'm saying.
That ball's turned on, but looped foul off the bat of Charles McAdoo. So Bob McAdoo played after you were in college then?
No.
No?
No, I wasn't born yet, and just, I mean, maybe you can tell me throughout the
That's
game.
amazing because
Let it go. Just let it go.
I could have sworn you won a national championship with Terry Francona in Arizona.
Let it go.
Let's get back to action. Matthews, the pitch. Strike 3 called. And a good start for Quinn Matthews coming off that shaky outing last Friday night. And a good start for Matthews.
Well, it is. It's a great changeup on the outside part. It's a good sign for the Cardinal. It's a beautiful day here. Checking out, little changeup on the outside part. We're heading to the bottom of the first.
The Pac-12 champs, the Stanford Cardinal, they hit the most home runs in the Conference of Champions. As Stanford, 102 homers this year, 317. They score almost 9 runs a game. And their hitters 1 through 7 all have power.
They do. I mean, if you watch this Stanford Cardinal team like we had an opportunity to do, Roxy, you could argue they potentially had 7 All-Americans, 1 through 7, and it's not like Sapien in the 8-hole and Owen Cobb, there's the 9-hole hitter. Very rarely you're going to have a 9-hole hitter hit over 300, but this Stanford offense on all cylinders is tremendous.
Jonathan Clark makes the start for the Spartans. And it's ball 1 on Eddie Park, 93 from Clark. 4-4 and a 4.5 ERA. Walks have been an issue for Clark this year. Eddie Park turns on one to right, going back. James Shimashita at the fence, looks up. Gone, homer, Eddie Park. Leadoff homer for the Cardinal. 6th of the year for Park, and he was the most outstanding player in the Stanford Regional last year. He went 14 for 20 in this regional a year ago, and he starts off in grand fashion the 2023 Stanford Regional.
Well, it's kind of ironic, right? We talked about the Stanford Cardinal and the home runs that they hit, and they led the Pac-12. This right here is a sink ball trying to get ahead and come back with a strike as Clark and Eddie Park. Tremendous hands. He's like an unsung hero in this lineup. He's a leadoff guy, but he can leave the yard as well, and a great start for the Cardinal.
Tommy Troy, the batter for Stanford, 394, 14 homers, the junior from Los Gatos.
But Clark out there, he's really effective when he's throwing this hard sink ball down.
Tommy Troy lays off. It's 2-0.
He also throws a slider and a changeup and an occasional get-me-over curveball. But for him to be successful, his command is an issue, as you mentioned, Roxy. But when he keeps the ball down in the zone, he can be effective.
So Tommy Troy, who many people feel will be taken in the mid to late first round next month at the Major League Draft. 2-1. And Troy lays off again. 3-1 as Tommy Troy. Last 9 games has gone 19 for 42 with 13 RBIs and 18 runs scored. He had a magnificent postseason for the Cardinal last year when they went to Omaha for the 2nd straight year. And a swing and a miss, and he's down on strikes.
Just good old-fashioned baseball right there, and hardball. It's a sinker down and in, and Troy can't catch up with it.
So 1 gone. Tommy Troy retired. Carter Graham, Stanford first baseman, all Pac-12 performer, all Pac-12 defense selection as well. 21 game hitting streak for Carter Graham.
Carter started the season very, very slow. Mid-March, he wasn't hitting at all. David Esker tried something with him. He was hitting in the 4-hole, and he said, I'm going to put you in the 2-hole. And once he put him in the 2-hole, Carter, for whatever reason, put it all together, and he has been one of the hottest hitters in the Pac-12 the last 45 games.
Start of the year 2 for 30. Hitting 365 since. A drive out toward deep center with room. Backing up onto the track and making the catch is Jack Collette. And a long fly out from the junior first baseman Carter Graham, and there's 2 away. And that'll bring up Braden Montgomery.
Now, we have seen this, been here at Sunken Diamond Klein Field during the day, and the ball will fly during the day. And then the flag, we take a look at the flag out in center field, Roxy, it's blowing out. But I don't think, I'm just making that prediction that Eddie Park's not going to be the only guy that hits a home run today.
Braden Montgomery is switch hitter batting from the left side against Jonathan Clark. And Montgomery, .330, 15 homers. Last year was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. And Braden Montgomery will be among the top picks in next year's Major League Draft. On the ground, solidly hit, knocked down at second. Charles McAdoo hangs with it, throws out Montgomery. But Stanford, the early lead. Eddie Park gets the Cardinal on the board.
Well, Eddie leads off this game, takes a sink ball, hits it over the right field wall to give the Cardinals a 1-0 lead. And this is not going to be the home run today. Not at all. It's the best game in the world. Heading to the second.
NCAA Regionals coverage for all 16 sites continues tomorrow on ESPN3 and the ESPN app. For more information, visit ncaa.com, the home for all 90 NCAA championships. Stanford, the early 1-0 lead, on to the second. Leadoff homer from Eddie Park, Stanford center fielder. Middle third of the order for the Spartans, Jack Collette, the senior from Torrance, followed by Hunter Durow and Dalton Bowling in the San Jose State second. Called strike to Jack Collette, 302, 6 homers for Collette this year. Went 7 for 17 with a homer at the Mountain West tournament, second team all Mountain West for Jack Collette. Matthews pitch in the air to left, slicing back to the corner with room. Alberto Rios tracks it down, running along the edge of the track for out number 1.
You know, as Rios runs this ball down, it is interesting that he used to be a former catcher, but he can really, really run. I'm not saying he can fly, but he is a runner. It's going to be very interesting where he goes in the MLB draft, because you could argue he's got the shortest swing in the Pac-12 and arguably the best hitter in the Pac-12 this year. What a luxury, though, to have a former catcher go be able to play left field.
Hunter Durow takes ball 1 from Quinn Matthews. I think a luxury that you can find a player that you had buried on your bench for 2 years and becomes the conference player of the year. Great numbers for Durow, who lines it foul right past third. 1 ball, 1 strike on the San Jose State first baseman, as Hunter Durow, the junior from Vacaville, transfer from Sacramento State. And Vacaville is almost halfway between San Francisco and Sacramento, a little bit closer to Sacramento than it is to San Francisco. 2-1, Matthews. There's a weak number, back to the mound, bobbled, and Quinn Matthews takes it himself for the out. He's used to being busy today.
Well, this is beautiful right here, and it seems like a very docile play, right? But this is PFP, and this is what you work on during practice. It's PFP, pitcher's fundamental practice, but fielding practice, I should say. But on that ball right there, Quinn Matthews, if you can take it, which is exactly what he does, keep the first baseman out of it, job well done.
2 outs, Dalton Bowling leads San Jose State in homers and RBIs. And the third baseman takes ball 1 from Matthews, junior from Fremont, right across the bay. And he lines this pitch out toward right center, and the soft liner falls in for a hit. And the second hit for the Spartans, and a 2-out base runner to get Matt Spear, the catcher for San Jose State, to the plate.
Well, he insides out this ball to right center, just feathered it over there, and it's a 2-out hit.
253 for the San Jose State catcher, Spear with 5 homers. I guess fitting that the Spartans catcher would be named Spear.
Very good, Roxy. You were waiting for that all week, right?
No, actually, I just thought of it this morning.
No, that's not true.
Called strike to Spear.
You have 10 different agents that work for you to get stuff.
All-tournament team at the Mountain West tournament for Spear. Dalton Bowling leads at first. Pac-12 pitcher of the year, Quinn Matthews. 1 strike pitch. Breaking ball stays high. 1-1 the count. Eddie Park a homer. 1-0 lead for the number 8 national seed Stanford against the Mountain West Conference and tournament champions San Jose State in the NCAA tournament for the first time in 21 years. We'll mention it's been a busy day for Quinn Matthews. He had a final project / presentation to make this morning. Like, Stanford still got classes going on and finals are coming up. They're on the quarter system here at Stanford University. And Wes, I know you need to explain this, but Stanford's a really good school academically.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Keep going.
They don't mess around with their academics here, that's for sure. And there's a ball fouled off by Spear. In fact, Quinn Matthews anticipated Stanford playing a day game at home today. So he had to prearrange to reschedule his final project and presentation. It was supposed to be going on literally like right now. But he made arrangements with his professor and the academic people to get it so he could make that presentation and finish his project this morning before starting an NCAA tournament game.
Well, before you tell everybody the subject, let's just hold on to the next inning, because
no, I got it.
No, it will take that long to get through it.
Full count on Spear. No, it was an MS&E 256, Technology Assessment Regulation of Medical Devices. That was his class that he finished this morning. Fouled straight back.
Now, see, I would have no chance to read that at all. Read it, let alone
MS&E 256, Technology Assessment and Regulation of Medical Devices. And by the way, his project this morning accounted for 70% of his grade in that class.
Sounds like a military device to me.
3-2. Strike 3. Dropped in the breaking ball. Second strikeout for Matthews. Gets it done in the classroom, and it gets it done on the hill here for the Cardinal.
Well, he does, and when he is throwing breaking pitches behind in the count and head of the count, he is real good.
Men's College World Series is coming. Omaha, Nebraska, where Stanford has been each of the last 2 years. 1-0 Cardinal to the home second. As the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Alberto Rios leads it off. 5, 6, and 7 for Stanford. Rios followed by Malcolm Moore and Drew Bowser. 403, 17 homers, 66 batted in for Rios, who tops this pitch toward third, fielding it near the bag, and a high throw to first, and Dalton Bowling throws it away, and Alberto Rios takes off for second, and he'll make it. So Dalton Bowling airmails the throw over Hunter Durow at first, and Alberto Rios ends up at second.
He does, but watch his base running. This is just instincts. He reads it and turns left immediately and sets up the Cardinal. Runner second, no outs right here, but these are just instincts, and this is who this youngster is.
So 2-base error charge to Bowling, and that will get the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, Malcolm Moore, to the plate. Stanford catcher has been a hot hitter lately. 312 with 12 homers. And the Sacramento native, Jonathan Clark. Pitch.
Well, Malcolm was the #1 catching prospect recruit in the country last year. And Roxy, what did he do as a junior in California?
And senior. He was the California Gatorade Player of the Year, 2-time winner.
It's insane. You don't win that in California as a junior.
12-game hitting streak for Moore, who lines his pitch, and a nice lunging catch at first by Hunter Durow for the out. And Rios gets back to second. Good play by the San Jose State first baseman.
Well, it's a good play by Durow, but it's a big out. I mean, Malcolm does his job pulling the ball. His job is to try to hit the ball to the right side at minimum and move Rios over to third with less than 2 outs. But Giroux makes a real good play to catch his ball.
One out, Drew Bowser, junior second baseman for Stanford. 7-hitter hitting .272 with 10 homers. Rios at second, one out. Jonathan Clark delivers, and Bowser waves at a slider.
Now make no mistake, Drew Bowser is probably going to be hitting third or fourth in how many lineups in the country?
He's had an uneven year, up and down. Struggled the Pac-12 tournament. In fact, he's just 2 for his last 19 after a 12-game hitting streak. One strike pitch. Bowser lays off, and Bowser honorable mention all Pac-12, and he had a great postseason last year. 6 homers, 12 RBIs in the postseason last year. In fact, had 3 homers in the Stanford Regional, including a grand slam in their opening game of the Regional against Binghamton last year. As Bowser also homered in their dramatic comeback in the regional final, Game 7 against Texas State, when he went back-to-back with Tommy Troy in the home 9 to tie it against the Bobcats, where Stanford walked off Texas State to advance. 2-1 to Bowser. Another slider that's outside. And
well, the Cardinal last year won 5 consecutive elimination games. It's insane, right?
3 in the regional round, then had 2 in the super regional round as they lost the opener to UConn here before winning the final 2 to send them to the College World Series. And Bowser draws a walk, and there's 2 on with 1 out for Jake Sapien, the Stanford DH. First walk issued by Clark. Sapien's been a hot hitter lately. The average climbing up over 300, 304. 3 homers for Sapien. Sophomore from Atwater in Southern California. And Sapien multi-hits in each of the last 3 games. 4-game hitting streak, a modest 4-game hitting streak in this regional. He was 6 for 12 at the Pac-12 tournament. 2 on, 1 out. Jonathan Clark, the pitch. And Sapien looks at a strike.
Well, he's done so well. I mean, Sapien and then Owen Cobb hitting in the 9-hole. They've done such a good job at times during the year continuing innings to flip it over to the top of the lineup. I mean, very rarely you're going to have 8- and 9-hole hitters this good in your lineup.
Sapien off the end of the bat, loops it over short, going out and making the catch, moving away for the infield. Theo Hardy with a nice play, and then holding the runners, and quickly the second base umpire, seeing the play, Eric Gaucher, pointed up to say infield fly. So there's 2 outs, 2 on, and Owen Cobb, the 9-hitter, the Stanford shortstop, the senior, 325 with 6 home runs.
Well, you got to look at Theo Hardy going back on this ball. Now the sun's out. I mean, it depends on where you're at, but it can be difficult here midday.
Not a cloud in the sky. Picture perfect weather here at Stanford. Senior from Seattle, Owen Cobb. And nice job behind the plate, Matt Spear, to block that pitch in the dirt. And similar to Rios, with Cobb for Stanford and not the offensive season that Rios produced, but Owen Cobb didn't necessarily factor into the preseason plan for David Esker this year at shortstop.
Not at all.
Cobb was maybe the 3rd option for the Cardinals.
Well, we talked to David Esker, and in the Pac-12 tournament, if you were with this or you weren't, Owen Cobb made an error right in the Pac-12 tournament that David Esker said, well, this is the first time this youngster has played in a big game like this, and so it was something to keep an eye on for him. But to your point, Roxy, he wasn't expected to be a starter.
Chased one there. Now, coming into the year, Trevor Haskins, who was going to factor in at shortstop, but he was battling mono early in the year, and then has had a couple of injuries he's dealt with along the way. And David Esker giving Cobb an opportunity. Timo Becerra factored in. He was battling some injuries early as well. And Cobb in the air, right center field, hangs up there for Jack Collette, who puts it away in the Cardinals strand 2, and Clark pitched around that error. Through 2. Game 1 of the Stanford Regional. 1-0 Cardinal. 8-9-1 coming up for the Spartans. Schools are only separated by 20 miles, but these coaches go way back together. In fact, Brad Sanfilippo on the left was the hitting coach for David Esker when Eske for 18 years was the head coach across the bay at Stanford's rival Cal. And there they are, oddly enough, in a Texas A&M dugout from the 2015 regionals, where they went to a Game 7 and A&M ended the run of Cal that year. As we start the third, and Nick Trapani, the DH for San Jose State, 247 with 4 homers, brings a 5-game hitting streak up to the plate. Brad Sanfilippo worked for 6 years with David Esker over at Cal. And he was instrumental in current Stanford pitching coach Thomas Eager in his arrival at Cal, as Eske was looking for a new pitching coach. And when Mike New, who was the pitching coach, who's now the head coach at Cal, but Mike New left Cal to become the head coach of the University of Pacific. And so they needed a pitching coach. It's 3-1 on Trapani. And Brad Sanfilippo pushed David Esker and saying, you really need to talk to this guy. I hear a lot about him. Does great work. I know him. Thomas Eager down at Cal Poly. And ends up being the hire to take over as pitching coach at Cal, and David Esker brings him aboard. And then 2 years later, Esker leaves Cal to take the Stanford job, brings Thomas Eager with him, and then Brad Sanfilippo became an assistant at San Jose State at that time. And Brad eventually would become the interim head coach, did a fabulous job at San Jose State, and was elevated to be the permanent head coach for the Spartans. And they're very similar in the way they run programs, and Brad Sanfilippo taking a lot of the advice and watching David Esker work for years and incorporating it in what he does, the way he runs his practices, and overall, Wes, the way he runs his program. Swing and a miss, third strikeout for Matthews as Nick Trapani down swinging.
You talk about Sanfilippo, Brad, the job he did. Last year, they won 30 games for the first time since 2011. I mean, that's how good a job he has done with this Spartan program. But yesterday, we were fortunate. We saw 4 workouts, right? But Brad, if you haven't been around him, I mean, he's a personality, right? He's just fun to be around. But he's a humble man, and he appreciates everything that his club has to be here. But that said, we're in the dugout, and all of a sudden the music starts playing, and you can take it from there because that's Eske.
So David Esker is James Shimashita, the right fielder for San Jose State. The 9 hitter is the bat. So David Esker, they were coming on Stanford after San Jose State worked out here yesterday. And Esker, on purpose, had them blast Pearl Jam throughout the ballpark, knowing that is Brad Sanfilippo's Head and Shoulders #1 band of all time.
But it's in the middle of our conversation. Brad just jumps up in front of, in the middle of us, comes out to the on-deck circle, and then Eske's on the other side with his hands up too. I mean, you talk about brothering and brotherhood on the West Coast, and there's so much, I mean, on the West Coast that you can talk about, that all these programs, the coaches are connected in some way, shape, or form.
But these two coaches are very close. Hit sharply back up the middle, and James Shimashita, a solid single to center. Hit #3 for San Jose State. And that'll get us to the top of the order, and Robert Hamchuk again. But this is how close they are. This was when Brad Sanfilippo was still coaching at Cal. So that is David Esker with Colleen, Brad's wife, and at the time, their baby, who just finished first grade now, Francis Sanfilippo. In fact, Brad raced from practice yesterday to head up. Brad lives up in San Francisco. And is fouled back by Robert Hamchuk, who reached on an infield hit in the first inning. She had a end of school year first grade performance that he said, I got to be at. So as soon as they wrapped up practice, raced up to San Francisco, got there, and came back for meetings at the team hotel last night here on the peninsula. 1 strike pitch to Hamchuk, 0-2 the count. And in fact, because Brad lives in San Francisco, he drives past the exit for Stanford on Highway 280 coming down to San Jose State every day. He lives closer to Stanford than he does to San Jose State. but he grew up in the South Bay. His parents still live in Los Gatos. His dad gets to come to every San Jose State game.
Well, what did he say when he went past the exit the other day? He said, you know what? We got to play. We got to play a game. Because normally, he got up the bus this morning, happened to run into him. He goes, it's a little bit different. Normally, I'm watching. We're watching baseball. It's kind of cool we get to play.
I'm going to play a regional down there. Yeah. Chased a pitch in the dirt, and Hamchuk down swinging. 4 strikeouts for Matthews. James Shimashita at first base, 2 outs, and Theo Hardy coming up for San Jose State.
Well, this is that good changeup that Matthews has, and he'll throw it a lot with 2 strikes, but I mean, that's how good it is. I mean, Hamchuk's not a bad hitter. It's just a really, really good arm action from Quinn on the mound. It's a fastball arm action and a changeup speed, and he will dice up some hitters when he gets going.
2 outs, Shimashita at first base. Hardy a double play ball to first, and the San Jose State shortstop takes ball 1. First inning homer, Eddie Park giving Stanford the early lead on San Jose State. Terrific crowd on this Friday afternoon. And a lot of San Jose State blue in Sunken Diamond. The Cardinal are well represented too, but I'm almost, Wes, that it's 50-50?
No. I'm going more blue.
You're going more San Jose State?
I'm going more blue here because what you mentioned, it's a big week for school here, right?
They're still in school in Stanford. And again, the schools are separated by about 20 miles and a called strike to Hardy.
Boy, this is just a beautiful sight here, isn't it? I mean, beautiful weather. They're on the burn on the left field line and right field line.
I know I sent out the tweet yesterday, but I wasn't lying when I said this regional will have, hands down, the best weather of any of the 16 sites across the country.
Now, see, if I said that, you would say you didn't just jinx us, did you?
I'm not worried about it.
It was a good slider.
That by Hardy.
Good slider down and in.
It's supposed to be in the low 70s all weekend.
Okay, but if I said it, you would somehow say you just didn't jinx us, did you?
It's the Bay Area. Not worried about it.
The food really smells good here, just so you know.
Two balls, 2 strikes, and Theo Hardy. James Shimashita running at first base. And there's a ball served out to left, and it falls in front of Alberto Rios. Shimashita stops at second base, and 2 on for San Jose State. And here comes Charles McAdoo for the Spartans.
Well, Matthews goes right back to the off speed, but Hardy does a tremendous job of keeping his bat in the zone. He's fooled, but he does a good enough job to stay back enough to keep the bat in the zone long enough so he can hit this ball off the end of the bat to left field and set up McAdoo first and second with 2 outs.
Two on, 2 out. McAdoo struck out looking in the first. San Jose State threatening against the Pac-12 pitcher of the year in McAdoo over the screen. 0-1 the count. And the connections between the coaching staffs don't end there between Brad Sanfilippo, David Esker, and Thomas Eager. There's more. As Stanford first base coach, and we'll get a glimpse of coaching first in the home half of the inning, Andre Mercurio was a terrific leadoff hitter for San Jose State. In fact, coached for Brad Sanfilippo at San Jose State. And as he put it to us yesterday, that was until Eski stole him from me. So Brad losing Andre Mercurio, former Spartan, terrific player, coaching with David Esker over on the other side now. And these 2 teams, they play against each other in the fall. They have not played in the regular season this year. And McAdoo takes it high as Matthews frustratingly looks in, then checks into his dugout. And he's not getting the high strike call from Jeff Head, the plate umpire.
Well, we're going to look at it, but if you're a pitcher out there, this ball's up. I mean, and quite frankly, if I'm Quinn Matthews, I'm happy that McAdoo did not swing at that ball and leave it in the trees. I mean, it's a changeup that's up in the zone, but the last thing you want to do as a pitcher on the mound or in a regional game early in the game is let the umpire know that you don't like something he did.
Chased a pitch that was up there and a full count now on Charles McAdoo.
That's a slider, but it's not. It doesn't break a lot. It's just enough to get off plane of the bat from McAdoo. But this is where Matthews makes a living out there, throwing 3-2 off-speed pitches.
And he lost him. They're loaded for the cleanup batter, Jack Collette.
But that time he tries to get the fastball in the inside part, and just like that, bases loaded. And this is the beauty of postseason baseball, right? Doesn't matter. Number 8 seed in the country, 1 versus 4. It happens every once in a while where a 4 beats a 1, but these are the opportunities right here that if you're San Jose State, if you lose this game, you say we had a chance in this inning. On the other side, if you're Stanford, you say if we get out of here, boy, was that a big inning.
Mound visit from Malcolm Moore, the Stanford catcher. Jack Collette flew out in the second. Bases full for the San Jose State cleanup batter. 2 outs, top of inning number 3.
Even though it's left on left with Collette, we talked about in the open, he's in the middle of everything good offensively that happens for the Spartans. I mean, he's somebody, almost half of his hits, Roxy, have been for extra base hits.
Second team All Mountain West. And Matthews misses off the outside to Collette. 4-time academic All Mountain West selection. Began his career at San Jose State as a pitcher and an outfielder, now focusing on playing center. Had a great Mountain West tournament. Right through the heart of the plate. 92 from Quinn Matthews evens the count as Collette 7 for 17 with a home run in Fresno at the Mountain West tournament. James Shimashita at third, Theo Hardy at second, Charles McAdoo the runner at first. Already up over 60 pitches, and Matthews just misses off the outside.
It's a big pitch right here. Well, let's see if he goes back with the fastball that Collette took on the previous pitch, or he goes with something soft right here. If he goes with something soft out of the zone, it's all of a sudden a 3-1 count with the bases loaded. That's just a running fastball in the inside part. That's something that Collette had not seen in his previous at-bat. Everything had been middle away, middle away, middle away.
2-2, 2 down. Quinn Matthews facing the cleanup batter, Jack Collette. And that fastball is knocked down by Malcolm Moore, and now it's full.
Well, here we go. Everybody's going to be on the move on the base pass for the Spartans. A long single, and I mean a long single, folks, could get 3 for the Spartans.
The merry-go-round goes, and pitch hit to right, and that's a hit. A run is in. Theo Hardy around third. He will score, and San Jose State has the lead. 2 outs, 2-run single from Jack Collette. 2-1 Spartans.
Real good job by Collette right there. It's a 3-2 fastball from Matthews, and Collette just barrel to ball. We'll get a look at it right here. It's a fastball, base hit to right, and just like that, Spartans take the lead here.
Still 2 on, 2 out. Hunter Durow grounded out in the second. But the clutch 2-out hit, and Jack Collette, who you talked about, Wes, is usually in the middle of everything for the Spartans, and he comes through big time for Brad Sanfilippo. Bounce to short. Owen Cobb flips to second. Drew Bowser on the bag for the force on Jack Collette. But San Jose State takes the lead, the 4 seed in this regional. leading the top seed, number 8 national seed Stanford. Look at our bracket for the Stanford Regional coming up tonight, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2. Texas A&M and Cal State Fullerton back in the field for the first time since 2018. The school that's won 4 national championships, a perennial power. Hard times recently, but they're back in the NCAA tournament. And they're the 3 seed. They'll play the Aggies tonight as we go to the home third. Eddie Park, who homered in the first, looks at his strike. Top of the Stanford order, Tommy Troy and Carter Graham to follow against Jonathan Clark.
Big inning for Jonathan Clark out there. His club gives him 2 runs to give him the lead, and out of all the teams you're going to face, it's an offense like the Stanford Cardinal that you come back out and you get number 1 leadoff hitter out, and then you get the shutdown inning. Don't allow him to score.
Goes the other way. This was Eddie Park back to lead it off for the Cardinal.
Well, this was a fastball in the inside part, and people think Eddie Park's just a good hitter. Well, he's got really good hands, and he knows it right now. He leads this game off for the Cardinal with the home run in the right field trees.
And he is a native of San Jose. Takes it just off the outside. As Eddie Park, the junior, went to Valley Christian High School in San Jose, and 3 homers the last 10 games for Park after 3 in the first 44 games this year. Eddie Park grounds it weakly foul, and Park was tied with his teammate Tommy Troy last year, who was on deck, for the most hits by any player in the NCAA tournament last year. They each had 21 hits. And again, Park had 14 in the regional round. He was a Stanford Regional most outstanding player. He went 14 for 20 in the regional last year. He hit 700 in a regional, Wes.
Again, you know me, I talk about this youngster all the time. I love him as a baseball player, but he gets lost in this lineup, right? Because of...
I mean, guys don't hit 700 in beer league softball.
Correct. Well, I don't know about that, but...
And now takes ball 4, and it gets away from the catcher, Matt Spear, and Eddie Park is aboard for the second plate appearance after homering. He walks, and a start for the Cardinal in the third, and here comes Tommy Troy.
Well, that's exactly what the Cardinal wanted, was a leadoff hitter to get on after the Spartans take a 2-run lead. It's just a 3-2 spiked fastball from Clark. That's all it is.
Second walk issued by Jonathan Clark, and again, walks have been an issue for him this year. That's 54 now in 84 innings this year. He struck out Tommy Troy in the first. Leadoff base runner for the Cardinal. Troy fouls it off. Tommy Troy was 3rd in the Pac-12 in hitting, 3rd in total hits.
I would say, what, 3 weeks before the season ended, he was in the conversation for Player of the Year in the Pac-12?
And Alberto Rios, though, separated himself from, I think, the rest of the conference for that award. Park Bluff's going.
I think he did in that Arizona series, right?
That Sunday when he hit 3 homers and drove in 9. But Tommy Troy, he won the regular season batting title for Stanford in the Pac-12. He went 4 for 4 in the final day of the regular season at Washington State. And he checks a swing and a pitch running in. And Stanford was up big in that game against the Cougars. And David Escaro contemplated taking Tommy Troy out. But his hitting coach, Steve Rodriguez, who coaches 3rd for Stanford, willed David Escaro to keep him in the game because he knew what Tommy Troy had a chance to do, and Tommy Troy was aware of it also. And then Tommy Troy singled in each of his last 2 at-bats and then came out of the game, and he won the regular season batting title. Didn't back his way into it. He earned it. And he was battling one of the guys that was right there with him near the top is Alberto Rios, his teammate. And a full count on Tommy Troy.
Well, let's keep an eye on Eddie Park at first. Is he going to take off here with Tommy Troy? Tommy Troy doesn't swing and miss at a lot of fastballs. So if it's a breaking ball and Tommy Troy swings and misses, the ball's most likely going to be in the dirt. So it's a stolen base, but danger for the Spartans right here.
Tommy Troy in the ground to third. Knocked down in a backhand. Dalton Bowling will have no play. Infield hit for Troy, and Stanford has 2 on with nobody out, and the heart of the order coming.
It's not a bad pitch by Clark. It's on the outside part, and to your point, Dalton Bowling knocks it down, but Cardinal in business here. First and second, no outs, and Carter Graham, who led the Pac-12 in home runs last year, at the dish.
22 home runs a year ago. And the Stanford first baseman. 21 game hitting streak, and he's got 6 homers the last 11 games. Second on this, or first on the Stanford team rather, in RBIs, is Rios is second, as he's driven in 69. In fact, Carter Graham, he has driven in 29 runs in the last 12 games.
He's been in what they would say in fuego. You understand Spanish, right, Bronx?
Come on, Baxter, you know I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, well, but you know what's interesting about Carter Graham? We were at the Pac-12 tournament last week, and then there was a right-hander on the mound, and Oregon head coach Mark Wasikowski elected to walk Carter Graham to face Braden Montgomery. Who does that? That's a respect.
Pops it up. This is playable. Foul ground. Matt Spear. And he makes the catch, tumbling over near the Stanford on-deck circle. Big first out for Jonathan Clark.
It's a really good job by Spear. I mean, he's looking up and battling this sun, and fortunately for the Spartans, he hangs on to this ball and to keep first and second now for the Cardinal with just 1 out.
Here comes Braden Montgomery, Stanford's cleanup hitter. He's got a 12-game hitting streak going. Eddie Park at second, Tommy Troy at first, 2-1 San Jose State, last of the third. Good speed aboard for the Cardinal. That one fooled him.
Really good slider down and in from Clark, but this is exactly what the Cardinal did. They got runners on, the first couple guys on the entire year, and then very rarely did pitchers get through Graham, Montgomery, and Rios without some damage being done.
1-1 in Montgomery.
But if Montgomery has been susceptible to anything swinging and missing, it's always been the slider down and in from when he's on the left-hand side of the plate.
Jonathan Clark, the 1-1. Fouled straight back by Montgomery. All Pac-12 this year, 7th in the conference in homers for Montgomery. He's also 4th in the Pac-12 in walks, so he showed a good eye at the plate. Last year had a Stanford freshman record, 18 home runs. Clark the 1-2. And that one hit Montgomery. Stanford's low to the bases. And the last guy that Jonathan Clark wants to see with the bases full, the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Alberto Rios, coming up.
Well, it's a slider from Clark. He holds on to it just a little bit too long and gets Montgomery on the foot. And to your point, this is the last guy that anybody in the Pac-12 would want to hit with bases loaded. Now we watched Rios lead the yard against Arizona, down 2 runs on an 0-2 fastball. That was what, from, is it Barraza?
Chris Barraza.
Barraza.
It was
at about 97 at the top of the zone.
Bases full, 1 out. 16 pitches already in the setting for Clark, with 29 to get through the first 2. And Rios takes the slider down low. So Rios had a 17-game hitting streak snapped in the semis of the Pac-12 tournament against Arizona. .434 in conference play, and 12 of his 17 home runs coming during league play. skies this one out of play.
It's a good fastball from Clark right there. And, you know, obviously we have radar everywhere, and we'll find out how hard somebody's throwing. But you want to find out how hard your pitcher's throwing, just watch the other hitters.
So Rios, you see, drove an 11 against Cal State Bakersfield on March 5th. That tied a Pac-12 record. Former UCLA outfielder Bill Scott drove in 11 in a game in 1999 against Washington. And Rios in a 24-run outburst for Stanford that day against the Roadrunners drove in 11 to tie that conference record.
That's all. You know, the thing that's most impressive about Rios for me as a hitter is his swing is so short, and he can hit the ball out of the yard any place, from right field to left field.
This one will reach the seats.
It's another good fastball from Clark. But you want to know how good your fastball is, just watch the hitters. We're talking about one of the best in the entire country right now, struggling to get the bat head to this fastball from Clark.
2-2 on Rios. Bases full. Eddie Park at third. Tommy Troy at second. Braden Montgomery, the runner, at first. Stanford down a run. Home half of the third. And pitch number 50. There's a drive. Way back. Grand slam, the second this season for Rios. Destroyed by Alberto Rios, his 18th home run, and the grand slam, and Stanford reclaims the lead.
Well, you want to talk about, we talked about, and I mentioned it, how Rios was tardy on this fastball. You want to talk about somebody making an adjustment inside in that bat? This is exactly what this youngster did right now, and he did it the entire year. This is why we talked about him the entire year, and why he was the player of the year in the Pac-12. He does stuff that other hitters just can't do.
5-2 Stanford. Malcolm Moore lined out of the first at bat, and he grounds it to first base, and it's handled by Hunter Durow, and there's 2 outs. But the place still buzzing after Alberto Rios turns around a fastball and crushes one into the trees. Almost 440 feet on the slam from Rios.
Well, where that pitch was, it was even higher than the previous fastballs that he had fouled off.
Called strike to Drew Bowser, who walked in the second inning. So Alberto Rios. And now Drew Bowser in the air to center. Jack Collette going back. He looks up. Gone. Homer Bowser. Third home run for the Stanford Cardinal, the Pac-12 leaders. 105 now on the year, the 11th for Drew Bowser. Destroyed to center.
Well, we talked about the Stanford lineup. 1 through what, Roxy? 7, you could argue, could be All-Americans. And we're going to look at this pitch. It's a fastball, and it's middle, and Bowser loves middle, and he finds the batter's iron center field for the second home run of this inning.
Fouled away by Jake Sapien. And you rarely see balls leave the yard straightaway center here at Sunken Diamond.
No, you don't. But again, this inning starts, right, with Eddie Park walking. And that's the last thing you can do after you score 2 runs if you're the Spartans. And then Tommy Troy gets on, and you get first and second and no outs with Graham, Montgomery, and Rios coming up. Very rarely are you going to come out of there unscathed.
So Stanford, who hit the most home runs in the NCAA tournament last year, they hit 23. They've already hit 3 in the first 3 innings of the 2023 NCAA tournament. And Sapien lays off the slider. Park, the slam from Rios, and now Drew Bowser going deep. And there are the totals. Stanford hitting 23 in 10 postseason games en route to Omaha last year. And and that have already hit 3 here in game 1. This one will reach the Stanford bullpen. Stanford doing what they've been doing all year. They hit homers. Drew Bowser, who had a great postseason, hitting 6 homers in the NCAA tournament last year. And Bowser hit 3 in this Stanford Regional a year ago, including a slam against Binghamton in the first game. And that one hit Sapien, and Jonathan Clark,
no, he's upset,
visibly frustrated with himself as Jake Sapien, that pitch, hopefully it just got him in the helmet. And now the athletic trainer for Stanford coming out to check on Jake Sapien. And
well, you saw Jonathan Clark's immediate reaction was, please be okay.
And a hush over the crowd here at Sunken Diamond as Sapien seemed to have been cut open, getting hit with that pitch. And Clark still frustrated with himself. And it may have got Sapien under the eye. It may have cut him. And there looks like going to take him right in to get some medical attention.
He's frustrated, there's no question about it, but he's also equally worried about Sapien right there.
You could tell he feels terrible about what just happened.
Yeah, there's no question. Watch his reaction, Sapien. Excuse me, Clark. He just, where's his ball get him? Oh, yuck.
So Stanford will need to replace the DH Sapien, and now pitching coach for San Jose State, Matt Keplinger, heading out to the mound to talk to Clark, who carried a 2-1 lead into the bottom of the 3rd, but Stanford has scored 5 with a couple of homers here. And Jimmy Nadai will take over and run at first base, the freshman from Australia for Stanford. There's the pitch total for Clark, and 33 pitches here in this 3rd inning. And it may have hit the bill of the helmet, and as the helmet came down and clipped, it appeared, Jake Sapien. And we saw that happen to Kyle Karros of UCLA at the Pac-12 tournament. The same thing last week in Scottsdale.
It was an amazing thing, and immediately it looked like Kyle Karros got hit directly in the forehead with the baseball. But upon further review, when we saw the replay, the actual bill of the helmet bent and ended up, that's what cut him.
And the same thing may have just happened to Jake Sapien.
Well, let's hope it did. I mean,
and hopefully it was not a direct shot. And hopefully, and they're going to go through all the protocols as well, check him out, because it was a pitch that was up and got him in the helmet. They're going to make sure that he does not have a concussion. But Nadai running at first with 2 outs, and Owen Cobb, the 9-hitter, as Stanford sending 9 to the plate here in the home half of the 3rd. That one gets away for the catcher's spear, and Nadai breaks for second. Wild pitch advancing. Jimmy Nadai pinch running for Jake Sapien, an activity in the Spartans bullpen. And that is Cade Van Allen beginning to throw. Cobb a fly out in the 2nd.
Well, a lot of coaching decisions that you have to make when regionals start. And if you're Brad Sanfilippo, his starter Clark's got 61 pitches and we're not through 3 innings. If this score holds, I mean, as a skipper, you need to be thinking about, if this score holds, then we're in the losers bracket. Is it possible if we can win? If it's just, again, this is all assuming this score holds, and then you're in the losers bracket tomorrow, and somehow you win tomorrow. And then does this allow us to bring back Clark again in this regional? So a lot of stuff going around, going through skippers' minds in regionals, how they're going to handle their staffs.
And Cobb takes a strike, 3-1. Eddie Park is on deck, who walked to lead off this inning. Slam by Alberto Rios, a solo blast from Drew Bowser. And a 6-2 lead for Stanford, and Cobb in the air to right center. Racing back, James Shimashita. It's over his head and up against the wall. Around second, Jimmy Nanai trots in. And an RBI double to right center by Owen Cobb. And it's 7-2 Stanford, a 6-run third inning for the Cardinal. And the 7th double for Cobb on the year.
Well, it's a fastball on the outside part, and we talked about how many 9-hole hitters do you have. They're going to be hitting in the 330s. Well,
with 6 home runs.
With 6 home runs, and it's this youngster right here, Owen Cobb. This is a beautiful swing. It's a fastball on the outside part. He hits it over the head, over Shimashita and right, and knocks in the Cardinals' 6th run of this inning.
You know, I'm a little nervous when you say James Shimashita's name out there in right field, just so you know.
What, did I get it?
You got it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, you know, you looked at me and I said I messed up again.
So a mound visit. Catcher Matt Spiros to the first baseman Hunter Duro out to the hill, and they may be buying time. And now Brad Sanfilippo coming out, and that will be the end of the line for Jonathan Clark. And the Stanford Cardinal chasing the San Jose State starter here in the 3rd. 7-2 Stanford, the number 8 national seed and the host of the Stanford Regional, and their offense on display early against their friends from the South Bay. Good pitcher for San Jose State, the junior 6'8" Cade Van Allen on a relief, primarily reliever for San Jose State. 5.59 with that ERA, 3-3 record. He's walked 16 in 29 innings this year. And so Cade Van Allen takes over after Jonathan Clark exits after only 2 2/3. Stanford getting to Jonathan Clark and chasing him here in the last of the 3rd inning is Stanford now sending Eddie Park to the plate for the 2nd time in this home 3rd.
Well, when you go back and you review this inning, if you're San Jose State and you're Matt Keplinger, the pitching coach, and he sits down with Jonathan Clark, you just go back to hitter 1, right, which was Eddie Park, and you walked him on a 3-2 count, and that's how this inning started. And Rox, what's the percentage on the leadoff walk scoring?
137% of the time. It's scientific proof.
It is amazing how many times a leadoff walk will score.
And ignited Stanford here in the inning. So Eddie Park is homered and walked. Owen Cobb, the runner at second base. And Stanford getting into the San Jose State bullpen. Stanford center fielder Eddie Park. Cade Van Allen, and he catches the top of the zone there at 94. One and one the count.
I think this is what's made Stanford, and one of the reasons why they have been so good this year, their ability to answer when an opposition scores run. Their ability to come right back and just let the opposition know it. You know what? We're pretty good.
Just a bit high to Eddie Park. It's 3-1 now. Tommy Troy on deck for the Cardinal. 6'8", Cade Van Allen. Owen Cobb, the runner out there at second base. And that's a strike. A high strike to Eddie Park, and Eddie Park wants to tell Jeff Head, you know, I'm not 6'8".
Well, again, Eddie wanted to walk down to first or the second walk in the inning, but you want to talk about somebody throws downhill? This is what it looks like.
Well, Quinn Matthews is going, hey, wait a second, I didn't get that pitch. And Park serves one the other way. Robert Hamchuk going back and left makes the catch. And the side is retired, but Stanford scores 6 times, and they flex their muscle here in the home third.
Well, the bats were out, in the bottom of the third as Rios, the Pac-12 Player of the Year, goes grand salami. And just for fun, Drew Bowser says, I'll go after batter's eye. Big inning for the Cardinal.
Want to know the count on Dalton Boley leading off the San Jose State fourth, 6, 7, and 8 against Quinn Matthews. As Matthews gets the strike on the fastball. Bowling a single in the second inning. San Jose State third baseman. The Spartans have some catching up to do after a 6-run third for Stanford. 7-2 Cardinal. Matthews, the Pac-12 pitcher of the year. Blows it by Bowling, and it's 1-2. See if Matthews can get a shutdown inning. And that ball golfed out toward right center. Braden Montgomery, and he circles in front of the center fielder Eddie Park, and there's one out in the top of the fourth as Matthews retires the leadoff batter. As John Lynch, the 49ers general manager, here in Sunken Diamond today, and he's a regular in the postseason here. As John doing a phenomenal job with the 49ers, played both football and baseball here at Stanford.
Kind of like John Elway?
Yeah, they've had a whole slew of guys that have played both football and baseball here. And there's people that you would know, recognizable names. Matt Spear, the San Jose State catcher, into shallow left, angling over the shortstop, and Owen Cobb puts it away. 2 quick outs for Quinn Matthews, but
Brock Jones, the last one?
Brock Jones. You look back over the years, Chad Hutchinson, Joe Borchard, Toy Cook, who's actually here today also, played 12 years as defensive back in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. Nick Trapani, the DH for San Jose State, looks at his strike. Toby Gerhardt, Tyler Gaffney. You go on and on. All through the years. My daughter.
And don't the 49ers have a former Cardinal running back in their backfield now?
But he didn't play. Christian McCaffrey didn't play baseball.
No, I know, but I'm just talking about a former, which in my opinion should have won the Heisman.
Well, don't look at me. I voted for him. It wasn't my fault. I did my job.
I mean, bad on you voters.
2-2 on Nick Trapani. 2 outs here in the fourth.
John Lynn's done a great job with the 49ers.
Swing and a miss. And a 1-2-3 shutdown inning, 5th strikeout. And that's what a Pac-12 pitcher of the year does after his team put us up a 6th spot. Sunken Diamond on the farm on the Stanford campus with Wes Clements and our ESPN crew. Roxy Bernstein with you, home fourth for the top seed in this regional, the number 8 national seed, Stanford Cardinal, leading their Bay Area brethren, San Jose State, 7-2. Tommy Troy, Carter Grant, Braden Montgomery in the home fourth. Infield hit and a run, and that 6-run third for the Cardinal as Tommy Troy takes ball 2 from Cade Van Allen. 2 2/3 from Jonathan Clark, giving up 7 runs on 5 hits. And now Van Allen, the 6'8" reliever. And it's 3-0 on Troy. Stanford hosting a regional for the 6th consecutive tournament. The only team in college baseball that can stake that claim. The consistency for David Esker, back-to-back Pac-12 Coach of the Year honors. Looking for his 3rd straight trip to Omaha, and a leadoff walk for Tommy Troy. And that's how the 6-run third began. A leadoff walk to Eddie Park, and Troy walks to bring Carter Grant to the plate.
Real good take by Troy. I mean, this ball doesn't miss by much on the inside part, but really good take by Troy. And it doesn't take too many pitches for Tommy Troy to take off at first, does it, Rox?
16 steals for Troy this year. Or rather 17 steals. He's 6th in the Pac-12. Carter Graham 0 for 2, a fly out and a foul out for the Stanford first baseman.
what Tommy likes to do at first when he steals bases is kind of get a little shuffle jump lead and take off.
Now he goes. And the throw, and out at second base. Perfect throw from Matt Spear. Even though Tommy Troy had a good jump with Charles McAdoo covering the bag for the Spartans.
This is really, really good, fundamentally sound catching and throwing from Matt Spear. Gets his throw behind the plate, and a real good pick by Theo Hardy and a tag down on Tommy Troy. But we'll get another look at Troy getting into the bag. This is a great pick and tag by Hardy. Beautiful camera work there. Excuse me, that was McAdoo who took that throw.
3-1 on Graham. One out, last of the fourth. The pitch, and Carter Graham draws a walk. And again, walks have been a problem for San Jose State on the mound this year, and that's already the fourth issued by the Spartan staff, as they've issued 281 walks coming in 56 games.
Well, they have, and it has been an issue for the pitching staff as a whole, as you mentioned. And the last team you want to give free passes to is an offense like the Stanford Cardinal has.
One out, Braden Montgomery hit by a pitch in the third. And ball one to the Stanford right fielder and cleanup batter. So mentioned Tommy Troy will go in the mid to late first round of the draft coming up, and this guy will maybe go in the top 5 next year.
Well, let's put it this way. Every major league organization knows who Braden Montgomery is. He's a switch hitter, and by the way, he can also pitch, and he can rush it up there about 96, 97. Now, he hasn't been as successful on the mound as he has with the bat, but that two-way player is starting to get more popular for some reason. Some guy in Anaheim has kind of made that popular.
Well, the Mississippi Gatorade Player of the Year is a senior in high school. Last year, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. And you're wondering, well, how does Stanford get a kid from Mississippi as Montgomery sends that one out of play? It's Stanford. If a kid gets into Stanford,
yeah,
more than likely he's coming. And Braden Montgomery, teams wanted to take him out of high school, and he basically said, don't draft me because I am going to Stanford unless you meet my asking price, and teams were not going to pay that money for Montgomery. And he basically told him it starts at about $4 million for me.
Well, I'm still a little bit stuck on Quinn Matthews' final class that he took.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, I mean, it's me. I admit it.
Strike three called to Montgomery as Van Allen ran it over the inside edge of the knees. Good pitch from Cade Van Allen, 2 outs, and that'll bring up Alberto Rios.
Yeah, that pitch basically locked up Montgomery, as you mentioned, Roxy. Real good fastball from Van Allen. But yeah, the Quinn Matthews class, I mean, I know you don't believe this, but I actually was an academic All-American.
I want proof, Wes.
I know you don't believe it, but
you're right, I don't.
Okay, but that said, that class was not a part of any part of my class.
MS&E 256, Technology Assessment and Regulation of Medical Devices. Over toward the right field line. James Shimashita puts it away. And the Cardinal are turned away. Through 4. 7-2 Stanford, the head coach of the Cardinal, the Pac-12 coach of the year. David Esker joins us next. Stanford is 7-2 lead on San Jose State with Wes Clements and our ESPN crew. Roxy Bernstein joined by the head coach of Stanford, David Esker. And your team, David, doing what they've done all season. They responded. What did you like about your at-bats and getting Jonathan Clark out of the game?
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it's the response. You know, they had a big hit, big 2-strike hit by the Collette to give them the lead, and just the response. Our guys just staying calm and having good at-bats. Put a couple big swings. Obviously, Alberto Rios puts a big swing on it, and then Drew Bowser right behind him. So you're right. That's what we've been doing all year, is been good at responding.
Well, Eske, I mean, Eddie Park seems to be the guy that gets forgotten in this lineup, right? But he leads off the game with the home run, but he also leads off with that walk in that big inning you had. I mean, talk about him.
He's a catalyst for us, right? And a year ago, I think he went like 11 for 11 in the regionals, just finding a hit everywhere, and we kind of need him to go on one of those streaks as well, because when he's on base, he kind of sets it off for us, and he can steal a base, but he can advance 2 bases, and he runs good at bat, so he fouls off a few pitches, and if he goes down, he usually takes the pitcher down with him. So he's real important in our batting order.
David, we've talked about Alberto Rios and his growth all season for you, and you've shared with us before that you would be lying to us if you expected this. But his progression, what do you think has been the biggest thing for Rios in him emerging as one of the best players in the country?
Well, it's just his mentality, right? I mean, he's a tough kid, and that's what allowed him to go through the first couple of years where we didn't use him much. But he's got a toughness to him. He didn't feel sorry for himself. He was a great teammate on the bench. He just stayed. He was the energy of our team. And when he got his opportunity, he wasn't going to let it. He wasn't going to let it slip. And I tease him as it's like a dog hanging onto a rag doll. He wasn't going to give up the position once he had a chance to have it.
Now, does he give you grief for saying some Pac-12 coach of the year you are because you had me on the bench for 2 years?
Yeah, he doesn't think I make very good decisions all the time, But maybe that's a tribute to we had some good players. We had some depth, and we had a future first-team All-American and Pac-12 Player of the Year sitting on the bench.
David, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you.
David Esker, the head coach of the Cardinal, as we're back to the top of the San Jose State order, and Robert Hamchuk is 1 for 2.
I think it's the beauty of the game when you have stories like Alberto Rios, right?
Ground ball to second. Drew Bowser bobbles, picks it up, and he throws wildly at first. Nice job by Malcolm Moore, the catcher, to back up.
Yeah, Bowser a little frustrated with himself. It's just a routine ground ball, but to your point, Malcolm Moore, his job on a ground ball, catcher's ground ball. A catcher's job on a ground ball is to run down the first baseline in case throw gets away. And it does, but Malcolm Moore does a good job. But I mean, to your point, when you talk about Alberto Rios and you have kids all over the country over there thinking about, well, am I ever going to get a chance? Am I ever going to get a chance?
Skied by Hunter Durow, rather Theo Hardy. And there's Carter Graham, the first baseman, to make the grab. And there's 2 outs, and that'll bring up Charles McAdoo.
But am I ever going to get a chance to play? And the answer is most likely you will. It's what you do with that opportunity. And
also, it's interesting because around the country, Wes, players that don't play. Rios would have been in the transfer portal and out of here.
Long time ago.
Carter Graham didn't play as a freshman barely at all for Stanford. But that's also the allure of Stanford. Because of the power of the Stanford degree and the academics here, kids aren't likely to leave because they value what that education means at Stanford.
And if they do, it's after they already have their degree.
Charles McAdoo off the end of the bat to right center. Eddie Park makes the play. And another scoreless inning for Quinn Matthews. We head to the last of the 5th. Brad Sanfilippo, the head coach of San Jose State, will join us next as the Cardinal lead his Spartans 7-2. On to the home half of the 5th, 7-2. Stanford leads San Jose State. The head coach of the Spartans, the Mountain West Conference coach of the year, Brad Sanfilippo, joins us from the San Jose State dugout. It's been a remarkable season, Brad, for you guys to just get to this point. First time San Jose State's been in the tournament in 21 years. What's been the key for this team to get yourself into this situation?
Just a tight-knit, older group that really has carried it. It's carried. You go from our center fielder Jack Collette, who's been here for 6 years, and just the character of those guys, believing that this was possible. That not only we were good enough, but that they believed in their teammates, and so I give all the credit to our guys and being able to get here.
Well, Brad, Jonathan Clark obviously left the game earlier than you wanted him to, but in defense of him, I mean, it was quite remarkable to me. The 2 fastballs he threw up in the zone to Rios, Rios wasn't getting there. And he threw one a little bit higher, and Rios got there. I mean, that's just talent. But, I mean, I got to tell you, I can't fault him for throwing it back up there, because Rios wasn't catching up with it.
No, we were trying to extend a little bit. Probably got a little too much of the plate right there. But, yeah, hey. When you're facing a team as dangerous as this, and you know, sometimes you got to be perfect, and we probably needed to be right there. But yeah, I thought Jonathan was he was okay, probably not his best, and you know, we just probably gave a few too many opportunities away right there, and obviously a talented lineup like this can cash in.
Brad, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Brad Sanfilippo, a deep drive, but foul off the bat of Malcolm Moore. 6, 7, and 8 for Stanford in the home 5th. Moore followed by Drew Bowser, then Jimmy Nadai, who was in there for the DH Jake Sapien, who was hit by a pitch earlier for Stanford. Malcolm Moore 0 for 2, a line out and a ground out to the Stanford catcher. But San Jose State, such a great story, as Moore goes the other way, foul. Considering first time in the tournament for San Jose State since 2002. And they haven't had that much team success recently. And then Brad Sanfilippo coming in and really stabilizing a program that does have a proud tradition. And he is given a foundation to San Jose State. And also, he has helped this program, given them some stability. And that's what they desperately needed.
There's no question about it. But, you know, again, when he took over the program, it was a program that had to get rebuilt. And we just talked about it. Since 2011 was the last time they won 30 games in a season. And they did last year.
Malcolm Moore lines it to right. And going back a few steps and reaching up for James Shimashita, the right fielder. And the line out from Malcolm Moore, 1 gone in the last of the 5th for Drew Bowser.
But this was back-to-back years that the Spartan reached the Mountain West tournament final. So they had an opportunity last year to play in a regional. Didn't get it done. They came back again. It's just a great job by Brad.
1 out, Bowser homered to center in that 6th run. 3rd inning. He's also walked in this one. It just seems like when the calendar flips to June, you get to the postseason, Drew Bowser gets going, as he did in the postseason last year. And Tommy Troy has done that throughout his Stanford career. Bowser, who was playing 3rd base last year, and he and Troy flipped positions. Troy was playing 2nd, now at 3rd. Bowser's at 2nd this year.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, they have to be, speaking of Owen Cobb at shortstop and Drew Bowser at 2nd, the tallest combination in double play combination in the country. 6'3" and 6'4". Cobb 6'3", Bowser 6'4".
3-0 pitch in there.
I mean, look at it. It's like me, and you look at me. Well, you don't even expect me to be on the field anywhere, right? When you look at me, like how did it happen?
At one point, I did.
Well, not here.
Skide pushing toward the crowd, and this one is out of play off the netting from Bowser, and a full count on the Stanford second baseman here.
How about this crowd, though? Beautiful, huh?
Perfect day for baseball. Stands are packed. 2 schools separated by about 20 miles. Although with the traffic trying to get back to San Jose tonight on a Friday during the commute will not be fun.
Well, it won't, but it takes me like 20 minutes to get to the yard, and the hotel is like 3 miles from here. That's because of all the signals. They seem to last here about 3.5 minutes, every signal.
I can tell you the backway shortcut, maybe.
Not a chance. And
you'd get lost.
No, well, listen.
You would get lost.
Well, there's no question I get lost. I mean, every time I come to Stanford, I stop and say, where's the baseball field?
How many times have you been here?
About 20.
Jimmy Nadai, first at bat, as he entered as a pinch runner for Jake Sapien, was hit by a pitch and had to leave in the 3rd. Limited opportunities for Nadai this year, just 40 at bats, driven in 6. The native of Sydney, Australia. One of the best players in the Pac-12 is from Australia, and you look at Travis Bazan up at Oregon State.
Boy, is he
the Beavers are in the tournament, and Bazano is probably in that conversation with Alberto Rios for Pac-12 Player of the Year.
There's no question about it. He made a play at the Pac-12 tournament. It was insane.
Strike to Jimmy Nata.
Yeah, 2 trips ago to Stanford, I knew I was going bad when I left our lunch, and I stopped after about driving for around 20 minutes. And I said, I'm looking for the baseball field. She laughed at me. She goes, you got a long ways to go. And this is just on campus.
Nati swings, hooks it down the left field line toward the corner, racing over and making the catch just inside fair territory, Robert Hamchuk. And Drew Bowser was all the way to second. He'll have to jog back to first.
Hamchuk had to go a long ways to run this ball down.
And Nati just missed that one.
He did.
2 outs, the 9-hitter Owen Cobb. RBI double in that 6-run third. He's 1 for 2. 7-2 Stanford. Game 1 of the Stanford Regional tonight. Texas A&M, the 2 seed, against the 3 seed, Cal State Fullerton. Titans are back in. Cobb out to right center. Cut off by Shimashita in the alleyway, and hustling over to third is Bowser in a 2-hit game for the Stanford shortstop, the senior Owen Cobb.
Well, this is a great job, obviously, by Cobb, but a better job by Bowser. I mean, this Stanford Cardinal lineup, they run the bases, and how are you a good base runner? Well, knowing where the outfielders are, knowing the situation, but this is Cobb for his 2nd hit of the game to right field, but Bowser, he knows where the right fielder's playing, and he's off to the races. And they are so fundamentally sound running the bases, are the Cardinal.
Runners at the corners, 2 down, but first a mound visit for the San Jose State pitching coach Matt Keplinger for Brad Sanfilippo. There is activity in the bullpen. And the loser of this game will play at noon local time tomorrow against the loser of the matchup from tonight between A&M and Cal State Fullerton. And the winner of this game will play tomorrow night on day 2 in the winner's bracket.
Well, you talk about the Titans. Boy, they have a history in this regional, huh?
Go back to 2018. Cal State Fullerton, in fact, the last 2 times they've been in the NCAA tournament, 17 and 18, were right here at Sunken Diamond. 7-2 Stanford. 2 outs, last of the 5th, and Stanford's got runners at the corners, and San Jose State will stick with Cade Van Allen.
Yeah, that 2018 regional team for the Titans, they hosted that super regional at home against the Washington Huskies. I happened to be working that game. It was amazing. Hank Lafort, the smallest kid for the Titans lineup, left the yard top of the 10th. But Lindsey Meggs Huskies came back with 2 in the bottom to end up going to Omaha.
And that was the last time Washington was in the field, and Washington to win it against Dallas Baptist in Stillwater, Oklahoma earlier today. And a wild pitch. And coming in to score is Bowser. Cobb goes to second, 8-2 Stanford. And that's got to be frustrating on the first pitch after a trip to the mound. Stanford gifted a run right there. Runner at second, 2 outs. It's 1-0 on Eddie Park. That's just a bit low as Park has homered and walked. He's 1 for 2. Plate umpire, actually, Jeff Head, saying it's 1-1, even though the scoreboard was saying 2-0. And they appealed on that last pitch, and he did go, according to Doug Bynes, the third base umpire. Top of the zone of the breaking ball from Van Allen, 1-2 on Park.
This is where Park's dangerous with 2 strikes. Out of all the Cardinals in the lineup, he puts the ball in play more than all of them. And this is where he gets dangerous with 2 strikes.
Breaking for third. And Owen Cobb had a good jump, and Park grounds it foul. So protection swing with 2 strikes, but Owen Cobb Had a great jump on Cade Van Allen.
Well, this is what we talked about, the Cardinals and how they run the bases. And some would say, well, you're already in scoring position. Why get over to third? Well, we just saw what can happen when you're at third. Wild pitch.
Ground ball back up the middle and through past the diving Charles McAdoo. Owen Cobb is in. Eddie Park, an RBI single. 9-2 Stanford.
That's what he does. He puts the ball in play, and we're in the era of who cares if you make contact. Well, I'm in the other side. Well, when you make contact, good things happen, and this is what happens with 2 strikes. It's just a fastball, and Eddie puts the bat on the ball and knocks in another run.
2-out hit for Park. Tommy Troy 1 for 2 with a run and a walk today. Van Allen grounded just wide of third.
What'd you say the Cardinal average 9 runs a game?
Almost 9 runs a game. Now they've technically surpassed their average because they were at almost 9. But a potent offense.
Well, I'm good with math if you need some help.
Well, you were self-proclaimed academic All-American.
Not self-proclaimed. You can look it up somewhere.
The country as a team hitting .317, 8.6 runs a game. 13th in the country, 2nd in the conference as Tommy Troy gets into one. Way back. 4th homer for Stanford. Number 15 for Tommy Troy. Into the trees, 422 feet. 11-2 Cardinal.
Well, projected to be the highest pick in the MLB draft coming up from this Cardinal team, and this is short, quick, fastball up and in. He knew he got it. And another trip out to the mound for the Spartans.
So Tommy Troy goes deep. The 4th homer for Stanford, and Tommy Troy had a great postseason last year. 5 homers in the NCAA tournament a year ago, and Stanford with 4. And we're only in the bottom of the 5th as San Jose State go to the bullpen again. Well, out of the bullpen, Joey Camarata, transfer from Washington State, on the mound for San Jose State after 2 innings from Cade Van Allen. There are the numbers on Camarata. Limited opportunities this year. Making his 14th appearance. 11-2 Stanford, a 6-run 3rd. 4 more here in the 5th. Stanford has hit 4 homers today. The Pac-12 leaders in home runs. Flexing their muscle in his first NCAA tournament game, and a called strike to Carter Graham, who's over 2 with a walk. Stanford is putting on a hitting display. Showing you why they're one of the most feared clubs in the country, the way they can swing the bats. One and one on Carter Graham.
Well, here's the thought. As good as Stanford's offense is and was this year, Arizona was better in every category except home runs.
Carter Graham, center field. Jack Collette will get there, and that retires the side. But 4 more for Stanford, and Tommy Troy gets into the act.
Well, Tommy is on the board of every MLB team as a utility infielder, can play anywhere, but he has got some pop, and he leaves the yard once again. Number 15.
That is the San Jose State football coach we showed you, John Lynch. Brent Brennan, the head coach of San Jose State football, at sunk a diamond today to cheer on Brad Sanfilippo's squad. And he's a big fan of every sport at San Jose State, whether it's women's hoops, soccer, men's hoops. Brent Brennan is there cheering on his colleagues, and he's here to root on Brad Sanfilippo.
Well, he's done a great job with that football team as well. But
phenomenal job, as the head coach had them in a bowl game this year, won the Mountain West a couple of years ago. Quinn Matthews will face the middle third of the San Jose State border in the 6th. Jack Collette, Hunter Giroux, and Dalton Bowling here. But Brent coaching in a number of stops in the Pac-12, moving up the ladder. Long time at Oregon State, as well as coached at Arizona, Washington, and the head man at San Jose State. And a called strike, and Jack Collette has gone looking. 6 strikeouts for Quinn Matthews.
we'll get a look at this pitch right here. It's on the outside part, and you know, this has been forgotten about Quinn Matthews. Started the game a little bit shaky with his command, but once you give one of the best in the country a lead like that, they clamp down and say, this is my game. But you know, you talk about San Jose State. How about some of the alumni, Roxy? I mean, we can't not talk about Mark Langston, right? I think the story about Mark Langston is amazing, really, because he played soccer also at San Jose State. But the story about Langer is that he was a pitcher, but
Hunter Giroux out to right, going back. Montgomery reaches up and makes the catch going onto the track in deep right.
But he was trying and begging his head coach to let him play shortstop. He wanted to be a left-handed shortstop. And guess what? He got the opportunity to play shortstop as a left-hander, and it was amazing. But I mean, some really good alumni. You see Cammy, unfortunate we lost him way too early. Fransden, and then you can have the last name, Roxy,
Simon Tachi,
because I'm not going to try that at all.
Former pitcher. As Dalton Bowling fouls this one off, Carter Graham gives it a look.
But I will tell you this, San Jose State has 20 alumni that played in major leagues, but what threw me off was the very first one I saw was Randy Johnson, and I went, not that Randy Johnson.
And it's not that one.
But of course I went to Baseball Cube and I said, there's no way Randy played at SC. And of course, that academic All-American, which by the way, I have proof. Twitter is beautiful.
Our friend Amy Villa, who works in the San Jose State Sports Information Office.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
And I know you're very frustrated. But anyway.
There's a drive by Bowling out to center. Eddie Park roaming back. Park makes the catch. Just to the left of dead center, and a long fly out from Dalton Bowling. 1, 2, 3 go the Spartans against Matthews. Alberto Rios due up second in the home 6 for Stanford. Game coverage, scores, highlights, check out Squeeze Play, available on ESPN throughout the college baseball regionals. Somehow they'll keep Mike Rooney in check. Well, his excitement level can get a little bit high, which is par for the course with Runes.
Is anybody?
Montgomery leads off the home 6.
I mean, Runes could be compared to an encyclopedia for college baseball. He knows things that happened 25 years ago.
Let's check out Squeeze Play. As Braden Montgomery into shallow left. Theo Hardy, the shortstop, taking charge. And there's one away. That'll bring up Alberto Rios, and the Pac-12 Player of the Year, sparking that 6-run third for the Cardinals.
Well, I want you to pay attention to this last at-bat. He hits this grand slam off of Jonathan Clark, but in this at-bat, this is what happened. Now, Clark's got a real good fastball, and you see Rios is tardy, late, and then throws one higher, and he makes that in-at-bat adjustment, and this is why he is such a talented hitter.
Rios 1 for 3 with that slam. One of 4 Stanford homers. And Rios sizzles one on the ground to short. Theo Hardy slings it onto first to take care of Rios. And there's 2 outs for Malcolm Moore, and Stanford, the long ball has been a part of their arsenal in the postseason. You look at, they led the country and led the tournament in homers each of the last two, with 2 trips to Omaha already, and Stanford has hit 4 in the first 6 innings of their opening game of the 2023 tournament. Malcolm Moore is 0 for 3, and the freshman catcher digs in.
Well, it's just up and down this Cardinal lineup. Anybody can leave the yard. I mean, we talked about it. Owen, all the way down to the 9-0 hitter, Owen Cobb has left the yard 6 times.
Slung in there by Joey Camerata, third pitcher for Brad Sanfilippo and SJSU in this one. 1 ball, 1 strike. Still trying to figure out where Amy Villa dug that up.
Well, let's don't talk about it until next inning, because it's such a positive thing. And
positive for who? Well, I guess you.
That would be me, and we're going to save it for next inning. But Amy, God love you for doing what you did. I mean, it disappointed Roxy, but we can't bring it out till next inning.
Be remiss also to mention Amy Villa. We didn't bring up legendary sports information director, senior associate athletic director, who passed away last year, Lawrence Fan from San Jose State. It was an institution at San Jose State. And I've known Lawrence for years and years. Just a tremendous person, and nobody loved more what they did than Lawrence. Took so much pride in representing San Jose State. And just thinking about Lawrence in a day like today, how proud he would be of this team to get back to the NCAA tournament for the first time for San Jose State since 2002. And if Lawrence were here, he'd be in his 3-piece suit, the tie on, and he'd bring fan cake for everybody here in the press box. He baked cakes for people at San Jose State football, basketball games. Wow. Just what a legendary figure and a great person Lawrence Fan was. And had a beautiful memorial service for him in celebration of life last April at San Jose State, Spartan Stadium, which I was there for. And what a tremendous loss for the San Jose State Athletic Department. Malcolm Moore is aboard now, getting hit by that pitch that skipped, and a 2-out base runner for Drew Bowser.
It almost looked like that ball, had Malcolm just stepped forward, it would have went behind him. Just hung on to a slider a little bit too long.
Third Stanford batter that's been hit. Drew Bowser is yet to be retired. He's walked twice and homered. Swing and a miss by Bowser.
Speaking of people who have been hit, you mentioned 3. We just hope and pray Jake Sapien is okay.
Was hit by a pitch from Jonathan Clark back in the 3rd and forced to leave the game. Pitch to Bowser, and it's 1-1 on the Stanford second baseman. No activity in either bullpen right now as Quinn Matthews has settled in after that rocky 3rd inning. Has pitched around it, and his team leading at 11-2. And what point of your David Esker do you think about getting him out with the big lead? Thinking maybe be able to bring him back at some point. Now he's thrown 96 pitches.
Well, with 96 pitches, it would, for me, it would have to be Monday.
Bowser bounces it foul.
That David Esker would think about doing that. Now keep in mind how many times he threw out a pen last year, Quinn Matthews, out of the bullpen. He was their savior.
He saved their season last year in an elimination game against UC Santa Barbara, after they lost the Saturday night game to Texas State. Stanford had to come back through the losers bracket and had to win twice on Sunday, beating Santa Barbara, and then Texas State to force a game Monday night, where that dramatic comeback to beat Texas State to advance to the Super Regionals. But Quinn Matthews pitched 6 innings out of the bullpen in that first elimination game on Sunday. Bowser down on strikes as the Cardinal are gone in the 6th. We're headed to the 7th. 11-2, Stanford leading San Jose State. 7-2 Stanford, bottom of the order for San Jose State. In the 7th, Quinn Matthews still out there, the Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year. And I'm still in shock, Wes, that there's actual proof you were an academic All-American. I'm stunned.
It's beautiful. I mean, Twitter is an amazing thing, isn't it? It's just beautiful. Well, go ahead, Rox. I mean, I want you to tell everybody, because I'm not going to say it. Go ahead. Proof.
We had proof sent to us that has Wes Clements on the academic All-American team from 1960. I couldn't read it clearly.
Well, a 6 and a 9 are very similar, so it's 90.
80.
And Amy Villa,
80.
like I said, I mean, just God sent. Amy, just so you know, Roxy's been depressed ever since that information came out. It bothers them. It just says I went to school, Rox. That's all. I went to school. I went to class.
So, speaking of that academic All-American and national champion from 1980, you did have 3 hits in that title game, didn't you?
I did. I had a couple doubles, but I don't even think I scored a run.
Swing and a miss by Matt Spear. And your roommate at the time was the current manager of the Cleveland Guardians, Terry Francona.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He hit right in front of me. And
strike 3 called to Spear. Strikeout number 7, and Matthews is feeling it right now. He's pumped.
He is. But back to your question of how long does David Esker go with Quinn on the mound? Quinn has thrown over 120 pitches in a game this year. I mean, most notably the extra inning game that he threw against Washington, and threw 9 innings. I believe he punched out 12 and walked 1. But my guess is that this probably will be the last inning for Quinn. And the question is who David Esker is going to run out there next.
And knowing you got to get through a whole weekend.
Correct.
Bounced straight back by Nick Trapani. The DH is 0 for 2. Now, the last couple of years, Stanford has held their ace back. For example, Alex Williams last year was the Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year. Did not throw in Stanford's first game of this regional here at Stanford. They threw Joey Dixon, who's going to start tomorrow, is their number 2 starter. But they held Williams back. But this year, David Esker electing to pitch his ace and his number 1 guy in their first game. Well, partly because I think David Esker has so much respect for San Jose State and Brad Sanfilippo, knowing they couldn't afford to drop this game and have to come back through the loser's bracket. They had to win their first game.
Well, I think the
fair ball. Tommy Troy from foul ground slings it across. And there's 2 gone, and Matthews has retired 7 in a row.
Well, we saw the offense and the power that Tommy Troy has, but this is what the scouts love about Tommy Troy. You're going to be able to put him any place in the infield, and he's going to make the play. And this is not an easy play, but it's made look easy. And a good pick on the backside by Carter Graham. But
James Shimashita, the batteries, 1 for 2 with a run. But holding their number 1 guy back the last couple of years. Now, you would have thought they were set up for a perfect situation, having Alex Williams go in the winner's bracket game against Texas State last year. However, Alex Williams picked the wrong time to have a rough outing, and Texas State beat him. So even though you roll the dice and it seemed to work on paper as Shimashita lines that foul, it didn't exactly work because that ace that was held back ended up losing. And it's happened each of the last 2 years that David Esker did that.
Well, it happens all across the country, right? From number 1 seeds, especially national seeds, they have this big meeting on what are we going to do against the 4.
Like, will LSU throw Skeens in the first game in Baton Rouge?
Here's what I'll tell you. There's been many teams in Omaha hold back a pitcher for the next day, and the next day never came. They were on a plane going home. So, again, what you're trying to do in a regional is get 1-0. Because you don't want to go to the loser's bracket in a regional. You're trying to get 1-0.
Back to the top of the order, Robert Hamchuk, but first a mound visit from Thomas Eager. The Stanford pitching coach of the Cardinal leading at 11-2. Here with 2 outs in the top of the 7th inning, and Matthews up over 110 pitches now. And he's probably nearing the end of the line. And also you're at the point, Wes, where if you were thinking of bringing him back, should you have to play Monday night? 111 pitches, and David Esker's not going to put somebody in a bad situation like Matthews to maybe bring him back on Monday. I would assume that when Quinn Matthews leaves the mound here at Sunken Diamond today, that he's not coming back in this regional.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Most likely, this is the last time you will see Quinn Matthews throw in this regional. Again, if you just joined us today and you're a college baseball fan, Stanford is a national host, so they're the #8 national seed.
Fouled away by Robert Hamchuk.
And what that means is if Stanford wins this regional, they will host the super regional right here again.
James Shimashita, the runner at first base. And Matthews may be emptying the tank here. And Quinn Matthews, who was drafted after last season by Tampa Bay, he was taken in the 19th round, but betting on himself and returning to Stanford feeling he could be a top-end pick, and he's turned himself into an early round draft pick. In the air, left center. Drifting over Eddie Park. Center fielder takes charge. Side retired to runner left. Time to stand and stretch as we head to the last of the 7th inning. Stanford cruising in their regional opener. Well, you better get your Capital One card in that wallet.
$1.50.
Jimmy Nadai leads off the 7th. New pitcher for San Jose State. It's Jesse Gutierrez. Left-hander. 1-2 and a 5.27 ERA. 31 strikeouts in 27 in the 3rd innings this season. Second at bat for Nadai, who entered pinch running for Jake Sapien in the 3rd inning after Sapien was hit by a pitch in the head area. Got him in the helmet, may have clipped the face as well. As he left the game, appeared to get cut underneath one of his eyes. Stanford has hit 4 home runs. Gutierrez, the 4th Spartan pitcher of the day. And Nadai skies this one. Going out, Charles McAdoo into shallow right. The second baseman puts it away with James Shimashita, the right fielder, almost in his back pocket.
Real good play by McAdoo. He also made a tremendous pick earlier in the game on a throw from Matt Spear when they nailed Tommy Troy. But there's the Stanford pen, Roxy.
Well, I will say, even though Matthews is over 110 pitches.
Here we go. No, he's done. Speaking of Matthews.
As Owen Cobb in the air, just got it off the end of the bat. Crowd got faked out. And Robert Hamchuk makes the catch, and there's 2 outs. So activity down there. I think that was Brant Panzer, right-hander, getting loose. 2 outs in the 7th. Back to the top of the order, Eddie Park, the San Jose native against San Jose State, has homered 2 for 3, scored 3 runs today, and driven in 2.
Well, now, if you're David Esker and Thomas Eager, the pitching coach for the Cardinal, I mean, this is what the doctor ordered, right? You get 7 innings out of your starter in Matthews, and you don't have to go deep into your pen from the winner's bracket, assuming everything holds the way it is.
But Matthews has not allowed a hit since the 3rd inning. And, yeah, it's over 110 pitches, but let's face it, Wes, when you're cruising like he is, they're not high-stress pitches.
No, but he really turned into a different pitcher, and we can go back to the Pac-12 tournament where he got knocked out early.
2nd inning, he got knocked out of the game.
Against Arizona, and I believe he threw low 60s.
64 pitches.
64 pitches, and there is a belief, and I don't know, I'm not a pitching coach, but there is a belief that there are sometimes when you leave early and you don't throw a lot of pitches.
Eddie Park. And a stroke to right field and a 3-hit game for Park. And he went 14 for 20 in the Stanford Regional last year. He's now 3 for 4.
He's had a tremendous day, but there is a belief sometimes when you leave a start early, your next start, you'll be a little bit strong when you start the game. Hence, your command is not that well. But once he got a sweat going, speaking of Matthews, but I think more importantly, once he got that lead, he said, that's it.
I think the sweat for him started with that final presentation he had to make this morning.
No, I was sweating for him. And listen, when you told me the subject matter that his final was in, that's frightening. But you know what? Amy Villa, again, everybody saw it. Now, math was a part of mine. English, math, well, English you wouldn't believe, right?
English is your friend, Wes. Remember that.
No, I understand.
Good pitch from Gutierrez, 1-2, and Tommy Troy, a 2-run blast in the 5th.
Well, you can appreciate this. What I started to major in was business, right? Because that generically was for jocks to major in business.
Taking off, Eddie Park, and a pitch in the dirt. He gets down to second base, and the throw gets out to center. Eddie Park will stay at second base, and a wild pitch advancing him. And the freshman Gutierrez on the mound for San Jose State.
Good read, Park. Shuffle, shuffle, read the ball in the dirt, takes off for second base in scoring position. But I ended up changing to a psychology major. Shocked? Take a look at Eddie Park. Shuffle,
Keep
shuffle.
surprising me, Wes.
Well,
2-2. Tommy Troy lines it out to left center. Around third, here comes Eddie Park. And a 10-run lead for the Stanford Cardinal, the #8 national seed, up 12-2 on the Mountain West Conference and tournament champion San Jose State Spartans.
well, just the little itty-bitty things that people think are itty-bitty, but they're really big in the fundamental base running. And we just saw it by Eddie Park. Reads the ball in the dirt, gets himself in scoring position, and next thing you know, Tommy Troy bangs one into center field. Another run on the board for the Cardinal.
Carter Graham 0 for 3 with a walk, and he slices this one off down the right field line toward the corner, and a fair ball that kicks over toward the side wall. They're waiting Tommy Troy, and McAdoo too late to the plate and scoring all the way from first. Tommy Troy, Carter Graham, an RBI double, extending his hitting streak to 22 games. Slicing to the right field corner, and Carter Graham, RBI number 70 on the year.
Well, we're going to just pick up Tommy Troy from first. Watch him. I mean, he knows where this ball, if it's down, Tommy Troy is going to score because there's 2 outs, but he's off to the races right here. And again, we talked about him being a high draft pick on this Cardinal team, but he quite frankly does it all.
2 more for Stanford as Braden Montgomery turns around to bat from the right side. And he is 0 for 3 with a hit by pitch and a run today. Carter Graham extends that hitting streak. 22 games for the Stanford first baseman. Tied up Montgomery.
Really good breaking pitch there from Gutierrez.
Ball and 2 strikes in Braden Montgomery. Gutierrez, strike 3 call, catches Montgomery looking. Stanford gone to the 7th, but 2 more. And they lead San Jose State 13-2.
Well, Quinn Matthews was sensational after the second inning. Locating early in the game is a little bit strong, couldn't find his command, but boy, he locked in right after his offense gave him a bunch of runs, and he ended up doing exactly what David Esker wanted him to do. At minimum gave him 7 innings. There you see the left-hander. Job well done.
Retired 13 of the last 15 batters that he faced. Did not give a hit to San Jose State in his final 4 innings. And leaves with a 13-2 lead. Junior Brant Panther, the native of Sewanee, Georgia, on in relief. As Panther made 1 start this year. His 5.17 ERA, does have 5 saves, 37 strikeouts, and 38 1/3.
We see just 12 walks and 38 1/3. He has been really good out of the pen. And
strike 1 to Theo Hardy.
You know, we've seen more ERAs, Roxy, across the board, no matter which game we do in the 5s, but it's across the country.
Pitching's been down.
It's really, yeah, I think it's been down, but I think we, quite frankly, have a livelier baseball. I mean, just put it out there.
Number of pitching coaches we've chatted with are in that mindset that they think that the ball's got a little,
I don't think they think.
Little extra juice to it.
I don't think they think. They know just based on swings. But
swing and a miss. Panther gets the strikeout as Hardy goes down.
But when you think
Charles McAdoo coming up.
Excuse me, but when we think about team ERAs, and you'll see this fastball, just good hard fastball, little run on the outside part. But the job that Brian O'Connor has done with Wake Forest, and that pitching staff, they lead the country in ERA, but it's in the 2s. So that's how good they have been. And there's a lot of people that think they're the team to beat if you're going to win this national championship.
Fouled back by McAdoo. 0 for 2 with a walk today.
Excuse me, Tom Walter. Brian O'Connor is head coach of Virginia.
Tom Walter was at New Orleans before Wake Forest, and serving one to right, Charles McAdoo pushes 1 for a hit. At number 6, San Jose State, their first hit since the 3rd inning.
That's the beauty of baseball. Round bat and a round ball, and you can hit the ball off at any part of the bat. And McAdoo doesn't hit this well, he'll tell you, but he hits it right off the end of the bat. Little spin, gets himself a hit to right field.
Funny, we showed the San Jose State major leaguers earlier. Mark Langston, Ken Caminiti, Jason Simitachi,
Randy Johnson.
This Randy Johnson pitched for the Braves back in the early 80s.
Go ahead.
Or played for the Braves in the early 80s, I should say. Not, of course, that same. But I would be remiss, one of my broadcast friends that I didn't work with the Oakland A's. No. His name's Chris Townsend. He pitched at San Jose State in the early 90s. And of course, I have to get the pop in for him, and he wanted, of course, me to tell the story of him shoving it against Stanford here in a midweek game back in the early 90s against Stanford. He didn't want me to tell the story of a grand slam he gave up, though, pitching for San Jose State. Well, so I won't tell the story of when he walked Mark Kotsay intentionally when they're playing Cal State Fullerton, who, by the way, plays here tonight. And a fly out as Jack Collette is retired, 2 gone for Hunter Durow. So I won't tell the story of when he walked Kotsay intentionally at Fullerton to face the guy hitting behind him, this big, hefty first baseman, who hit one into the trees for a grand slam. I won't tell that story.
Well, then don't.
Okay, I didn't.
Don't tell it. But you know, it reminds me when we talked to Quinn Matthews early in the season, right? We talked about.
Speaking of Cal State Fullerton, they're playing the nightcap against Texas A&M.
And of course, you mentioned Mark Kotsay, obviously the skipper for the Oakland A's now. But good. How about Quinn Matthews? We had him earlier in the year, talking to him during the game. Had the headset on. You talked about how great he was, right? And what did he say in the postseason?
Everybody forgets the home run that I gave up off the light tower in Santa Barbara. Hunter Durow pops it up right near the first base bag, and Carter Graham in foul territory puts it away. 1 hit, 1 left. 13-2 Stanford to the home 8. Performance in Stanford using the long ball.
They have done what they have done the entire year. They led the Pac-12 in home runs, and right from the get-go, the first hitter of the game. Eddie Park leaves the yard, and then everybody got in form. What are they saying right there? Is that, what is that?
They're making it sound like if somebody was hitting them. Yeah, you better fear the tree the way these guys can swing it. They put it in the trees in this one. Speaking of putting one in the trees, Alberto Rios did that with a slam in the third. He takes a strike from Jesse Gutierrez, the last of the 8.
You know, we talk about skippers before the game. Normally, you go through a lineup in an opposition and you'll say, which hitters, 2 hitters, do I not want to let beat me? And when you face the Cardinal, it's very difficult to figure out which 2. Because there's about 7, well, let's go all the way to 9.
Popped up and back of first. Hunter Duro going out, gives way, and charging in is James Shimashita. The right fielder puts it away, and there's 1 out.
Because we've talked about Owen Cobb, the 9-hole hitter, hitting .325 with 6 bombs. Or make it 7. Or actually 6. 7 doubles. But it's impossible to run through this Stanford Cardinal lineup and go, well, let's don't let Tommy Troy and Carter Graham beat us. So that means that Montgomery's gonna and Rios is.
So Malcolm Moore, the batter, 0 for 3, hit by a pitch in this one. And the Stanford catcher, the freshman of the year in the Pac-12, takes ball 1. Again, 7 o'clock tonight. Our nightcap, the 3 seed Cal State Fullerton, 2 seed Texas A&M, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 Eastern, 9 p.m. in College Station. On ESPN2 tonight. And that is a standalone game. We are the, unless there's weather issues at one of the other regionals, that will be the only game going in the tournament.
But could you, I'm just thinking about this, could you give an assist to Malcolm Moore deciding to come to Stanford for Alberto Rios? Because Alberto was
push him to left field.
Yes. Give an assist.
Malcolm Moore hits it sharply, and nice backhand by Charles McAdoo to throw out the Stanford catcher. And there's 2 outs. Nobody on. Drew Bowser coming up. And the NCAA Regionals coverage for all 16 sites continues tomorrow and into the evening as well. ESPN3 and the ESPN app. For more information, visit ncaa.com. The home for all 90 NCAA championships. Drew Bowser gets under it. Mile-high pop-up. Shallow left center. Jack Collette waiting for it to come down. And a 1-2-3-8 for Jesse Gutierrez. We head to the 9th. 13-2 Stanford. Look at our Stanford regional bracket coming up tonight on ESPN2 at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Sunken Diamond, the site for Texas A&M, the 2 seed who made the SEC tournament final. They'll play Cal State Fullerton, who gets the automatic berth out of the Big West. And there are the Titans. Remember the Titans. Found their way back to Stanford.
A movie?
That was a movie.
Just wonder.
Did you see the movie?
No comment.
First time in the tournament for Cal State Fullerton since 2018 as Hunter Duro leads off the 9th for San Jose State.
I told you, I just saw the Titanic last year for the first time.
You mean you weren't on the Titanic? That ball lined over third, down the line. This will skip for Dalton Bowling all the way to the wall. And cruising into second base. A leadoff double to start the 9th for San Jose State. Hit number 7 for the Spartans, and a 2-hit game for Dalton Bowling. That'll bring up Matt Spear, the catcher.
Good job by Bowling. This is a fastball way up in the zone, and he gets on top of this ball and lines it down to left field line for a double. But, you know, there's something to remember about this. We're in college baseball that you get some older seniors on the.
You talking about you?
No, seniors.
Oh, on the field. Oh, okay,
on the field.
Got it.
And I'm just gonna ignore you said that. You're such a mean person. But anyway, that said, You know, I was thinking about this driving to the yard today, and you'll never forget these times as a college athlete. I mean, some of these, it's the last time they'll ever play sports in college. And
bouncer to short. Owen Cobb looks, bowling back to second, throws out spear, one away.
But there's no such thing as an at-bat, a play that doesn't matter for some of these players, because there's some of these teams, there's only one team that's going to advance out of this regional. And then you think of all the juniors that'll get drafted, and you think the seniors that won't go on to play in pro baseball. But these times are the best times of your life. You never forget them. I mean, I get goosebumps and you see them because it's a brotherhood that you have when you play college athletics.
Foul to plate, Nick Trapani, the DH.
And when I think about the Arizona club,
well, keep in mind, your experience is different than most because you won a national championship, and not everybody. Now, granted, these are special moments, and to be in an opportunity like this, but let's face it, you have a bond for life because you've been to the top of the mountain in this sport.
Yeah, we were fortunate. We went to back-to-back College World Series, right? And then you mentioned Cal State Fullerton, right, is in the yard. They won it the first time we went to the College World Series under Augie Garrido, God rest his soul, one of the best in the world that's ever coached baseball. But these are special moments for some of these players, and those thoughts do go through your mind as an athlete. Because what's next, right? It's what's next.
But even this morning, for example, you and I had breakfast across campus here, and the Stanford team was in the same place we were at. And it seems like maybe an innocuous moment that they're just kind of hanging out on game day, having a team meal together, the pregame meal at 10 a.m. before the 2 p.m. local game. But that's one of the moments you're talking about with your teammates. And it seems maybe trivial, but at the same time, it's a special moment that they're going to reflect on.
They don't recognize it then.
Right.
They have to leave and move on and then remember back. And
on the ground, that's short. Owen Cobb scoops it up. 2 gone in the ninth.
But we have like a group of 15 to 16 players from Arizona that have a group text, right? And it's nonstop.
You're connected for life.
And so is Cal. I mean, listen, that six-pack that we played in, I mean, you can tell me. I don't want to be the one that says, but
no, it was clearly the best conference that we've ever seen in college baseball.
And
all the national champions came from those 6 teams.
Right, and I know somebody like Dan McInerney, who is a dear friend to all of us, but he's with Cal. Bobby Melvin, of course, the Padres skipper, was a part of that club, but they stayed. They're close. All that team is close. Booker and all those guys, but there's nothing like college sports, and there's nothing like the bond of playing a team sport.
James Shimashita's singled and walked. He scored a run. 2 outs in the ninth. And Stanford 1 out away from going into the winner's bracket in a game tomorrow night against the winner of A&M and Cal State Fullerton coming up here at Sunken Diamond this evening. Dalton Bowling at second base. San Jose State had an early 2-1 lead, but then Stanford scored 6 in the third, 4 in the fifth, 2 more in the seventh to put this one away. And Quinn Matthews, the Pac-12 pitcher of the year, was rolling on the mound. And Stanford hitting 4 home runs today. Eddie Park, a slam from Alberto Rios, Drew Bowser, and Tommy Troy also going yard.
D1 Baseball's Aaron Fitt has been bullish on the Cardinals since he showed up here early in the year. I mean, the Cardinals were his pick to win it all.
2-2 on Shimashita. Brant Panzer, strike 3, and that's the ball game. And Stanford has won game 1 of the Stanford Regional 13-2. They take care of the Mountain West Conference and tournament champions. And that is the 16th time that Stanford has scored 10 or more runs in a regional opener, which is tied for the 3rd most in the history of this tournament.
Well, it's just an amazing display of offense by the Cardinal today. And it started from hitter 1. The leadoff hitter for the Cardinals, Eddie Park, leaves the yard right off the bat. And from then, it was just the rest of the lineup doing what they have done the entire year, Roxy.
So 4 homers for Stanford. They slugged their way past San Jose State, got tremendous pitching from Matthews. And they're in the winner's bracket. And they're in the 1-0 game tomorrow night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Here from Sunken Diamond, they'll play either Texas A&M or Cal State Fullerton, while San Jose State will have to turn around. Elimination game at noon locally, 3 Eastern tomorrow on day 2 of the NCAA tournament. But Stanford, 4 homers, outstanding pitching as they roll past San Jose State. We'll see you tonight, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2 with Texas A&M and Cal State Fullerton for Wes Clements and our ESPN crew. Roxy Bernstein, so long for now from the farm.